You Think You Know Channel UFOs presents the Black Triangle UFO mystery. Season 1, Episode 4, The Black Triangle UFO Mystery. Take the deep dive with us into the Black Triangle mystery with You Think You Know Channel UFOs edition. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to You Think You Know Channel UFOs edition. Today we're diving into one of the most persistent, chilling, and intriguing UFO mysteries of the modern era, the Black Triangle.
$7
Unlike flying saucers or erratic lights in the sky, the Black Triangles are described as massive, silent, geometric craft, often the size of a football field, floating or gliding slowly over cities, military bases, highways, from Phoenix to Belgium. From secret Arctic installations to your own backyard, these sightings are all worldwide, and they're increasing. Tonight, we explore the history, the eyewitness accounts, the theories, and the possibilities behind one of the greatest modern UFO enigmas. What are the Black Triangles? Black triangles are typically described as enormous triangular craft, matte black or reflective surfaces, three bright black lights on each corner, a central glowing orb or light, completely silent, able to hover motionless, able to accelerate instantly or disappear abruptly. Unlike typical lights in the sky, these objects behave like engineered machines, but they defy our own known technology. Eyewitnesses often say the same thing: it blocked out the stars. The Belgian wave, our first major Black Triangle incident, occurred in Belgium from 1989 to 1990. This was not one sighting, it was thousands. Police officers witnessed the craft, military radars tracked them, F-16 fighters were scrambled to intercept. The Belgian Air Force officially admitted something was there, something they could not catch. The triangles moved slowly at first, then performed impossible maneuvers, instant vertical climbs, sudden stops, right-angle turns at extreme speeds. This wasn't random lights in the sky, something with intelligence and technology far beyond ours. Was operating in European airspace. The Phoenix Lights. On March 13th, 1997, thousands across Arizona witnessed what would become one of the most iconic UFO sightings of all time. Most people talk about the lights, but fewer mention the black triangular structures behind them. Eyewitnesses reported a massive V-shape or triangular craft, silent and slow-moving, so large it covered the sky, passing directly over Phoenix neighborhoods. One man said, "I could see the stars disappearing as it moved over me." To this day, no explanation, military or otherwise, fits what was seen. In the Hudson Valley, the sightings in the 1980s, the Hudson Valley region in New York experienced over 5,000 UFO reports. The most common object, a giant black triangle. Drivers pulled over on highways. Families watched from their yards. Police received countless calls. One witness described it as a floating city, silent, slow, and impossibly large. The official explanation, ultralight aircraft, but those pilots deny any involvement. The ultralights can't hover silently or move as a single massive object. Theory 1, top secret human aircraft. One theory suggests that black triangles are secret military craft, possibly TR-3B Astra, an anti-gravity experimental vehicle, or possibly nuclear-powered flying platforms. But if these crafts weren't ours, why fly them over populated cities, igniting mass sightings? Why appear during wartime upticks? And why would our own military scramble jets to intercept or fail to identify our own aircraft? Even former military personnel say, we don't have anything that can do this. Theory 2, extraterrestrial or interdimensional visitors. The behavior of black triangles suggests intelligence and purpose, slow, deliberate passes over nuclear sites, hovering silently above power plants, observing military installations, appearing during geological tension, their ability to move without sound or visible propulsion hints at physics we haven't mastered. Some theorists say black triangles could be survey craft, scouting vessels, probes, observation platforms. Their calm, non-aggressive presence almost feels like surveillance, watching us, waiting. Theory number 3, non-human autonomous drones. Another possibility is that black triangles are unmanned craft operated by non-human intelligence. Characteristics fit advanced drone behaviors. No windows, no visible crew section, perfect geometric shape, extreme maneuverability. If we sent probes to other planets, we'd use drones. Maybe we'd be studied the same way. The mystery continues. Even today, pilots continue reporting black triangular encounters. Civilians post sightings across social media. Military whistleblowers confirm that they've seen classified reports of triangular objects. The more we learn, the stranger the phenomenon becomes. So what do you think? Are black triangles secret human aircraft? Alien reconnaissance vehicles? Visitors from another dimension? Or something we haven't even imagined? Let me know your theories in the comments. And if you ever seen something strange in the skies above you, thank you for watching, and remember, keep your eyes on the night sky. Persistent and electrifying mysteries in the world of classified aerospace. The TR-3B, the alleged Black Triangle craft that many believe is operating deep within the shadows of black budget military programs. The story of the TR-3B begins with eyewitness reports dating back to the late 1980s and the early 1990s. Sightings of massive, silent, triangular craft gliding slowly across the night sky. These objects were unlike anything in our known aviation arsenal. They were described as huge, often the size of a football field, with 3 bright lights at each corner and a dim, pulsating glow in the center. Their most shocking feature, they moved in complete silence. No jet roar, no helicopter chop, just a smooth, eerie glide that defied conventional aerodynamics. The TR-3B name entered the public consciousness largely through whistleblowers and aerospace insiders who claimed that the U.S. had secretly developed a triangular craft as part of a highly classified program under the umbrella of the National Reconnaissance Office and the Air Force. The most famous of these insiders, Edgar Fouché, described the TR-3B Astra as the next generation surveillance and tactical vehicle, not extraterrestrial, but built using revolutionary propulsion systems, allegedly developed from recovered or experimental technologies. Fouché claimed that TR-3B uses a device called the magnetic field disruptor, a circular accelerator ring beneath the craft that filled superheated pressurized plasma. According to him, this system can reduce the craft's mass by up to 90%, allowing incredible acceleration, near silent hovering, and gravity-defying maneuvers that seem impossible for traditional aircraft. Whether these descriptions are literal, symbolic, or entirely speculative remains a topic of heavy debate. Across the world, Black Triangle sightings share the same characteristics: low altitude, slow controlled flight, sharp angular geometry, matte black or dark metallic surfaces, corner lights, and center glow. Total silence. Some argue this consistency suggests a real physical craft, something test flown over populated areas, either intentionally or by necessity. Others claim the TR-3B is disinformation. We're stepping into one of the most controversial subjects in aerospace secrecy: triangular ARVs, reproduction vehicles. For decades, witnesses, whistleblowers, and even former defense contractors have claimed that the U.S. and other nations possess reverse-engineered craft that mimic the famous Black Triangle UFOs reported worldwide. Are triangular ARVs real? Are they built from recovered non-human technology? And are these secret craft responsible for some of the sightings that people describe as black triangles in the sky? Let's dive into the mystery. What is an ARV? The term ARV, alien reproduction vehicles, refers to an exotic supposed class of black budget craft developed using recovered exotic materials, reverse engineered propulsion systems, classified aerospace research. According to certain testimonies, ARVs don't really rely on jet engines or rockets. Instead, they allegedly use electrogravitic or field-based propulsion systems, sometimes far beyond public aerospace technology. In other words, ARVs are said to imitate the physics behind the UFO craft. Whether this technology exists isn't unconfirmed, but rumors have persisted for nearly 40 years. The triangular ARV is typically described as a black or dark gray triangle, 3 circular field emitters or gravity nodes underneath, a glowing central disk, smooth surfaces, no rivets, no fins, silent flight, sometimes a low frequency hum, ability to hover motionless, ability to move with sudden physics defying acceleration. Some witnesses claim the craft sides across the sky, not like a plane, but like something manipulating space around itself. Whether these craft are non-human made or something else in the question, the claimed origins. Well, according to ARV theory, the triangular craft traces back to alleged crash retrieval programs, reverse engineered teams operating inside special access programs, technology recovered during Cold War era incidences, private aerospace contractors, not just the military. The theory suggests that companies, not governments, control the deepest secrets. This allows secrecy to exist outside the public oversight. Again, none of these claims are confirmed, but from the patterns, testimony, it's usually consistent. Insider testimonies. Over the years, several individuals have publicly described working on or around triangular craft. Common statements include viewing gravity listening effects beneath the craft, seeing propulsion systems without moving parts, being told that technology was not from here, stories of compartmentalization. Everyone only saw a small piece of the puzzle. One whistleblower describes a triangular vehicle inside a desert hangar, a craft shaped like an arrowhead floating a few inches above the ground. These stories are unverified, but they've shaped the ARV mythology we know today. The Black Triangle sightings connection, or the ARV theory, is often used to explain sightings of black triangles over U.S. military bases, silent triangular craft over cities, low altitude, slow moving, massive objects, triangles seen near nuclear installations. Could these sightings be secretive technology or undergoing flight tests, or are these objects not ours, and our ARVs are simply attempts to replicate something far more advanced? Some sightings include sudden accelerations and 90-degree movements still beyond known human aeronautics. This fuels theory that some triangle sightings equal human-made ARVs, others truly non-human craft. The physical rumors, field propulsion. ARVs claims often revolve around exotic propulsion concepts, including electrogravitics, zero-point energy tapping, space-time curvature, magnetic field displacements. These ideas exist only at the theoretical edge of physics. Openly, scientists say we don't have working technology like this, but insiders claim black budget programs are decades ahead. Are these claims true? No one can verify them publicly, but they persist. Sightings, behavior that matches ARV claims. People often report triangle craft that fly extremely low over neighborhoods, more silently or nearly silently, display smooth, deliberate motion, use these 3 bright circular lights underneath, appear matte or radar absorbent. This matches that whistleblower claims ARVs look like, but in this also matches descriptions of triangular UFO craft reported long before these supposed programs even existed. So who is copying whom? Is someone reverse engineering us? Is a possibility rarely discussed. What if triangle UFOs have been visiting for decades and our triangular ARVs are simply reverse engineered imitations? That would explain why human sightings often include mechanical details, why human sightings involve unbelievable maneuvering, why governments are silent, why multiple countries report triangles at the same time. Some craft might be ours, some craft might not be. The overlap creates confusion, which may be intentional. Closing the truth remains hidden. In the end, the concept of triangular ARVs sits in a strange place between science fiction and aerospace secrecy. We cannot prove these vehicles exist. We cannot debunk them entirely either. The consistency of witness reports, insider claims, and unexplained triangle sightings suggests something is happening behind the curtain. Are ARVs a classified triumph of human engineering, or are they attempt to duplicate technology we barely understand? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if we ever seen a triangular craft yourself, your story matters. Thanks for watching, and remember, the sky is full of secrets. Join us tonight. We're taking a quick look at one of the most controversial and talked about whistleblowers in the world of black budget aerospace, Edgar Fouché. He was a former U.S. Air Force avionics specialist and defense contractor who in the 1990s stepped into the spotlight with bold claims about secret triangular aircraft. He described a craft known as the TR-3B Astra, a large, silent, black triangular vehicle allegedly developed inside highly classified aerospace programs. According to Fouché, this craft used exotic propulsion systems, including a mercury-based plasma accelerator, to reduce its mass and achieve advanced maneuvering far beyond traditional jets. Fouché claimed he learned about these craft through colleagues who worked inside deep black programs, the kind of projects buried under layers of compartmentalization where even high-ranking officers had limited access.
My name is Edgar Rochelle Fouché. I'm here to speak about secret government technology, reverse engineering of alien artifacts, and the top secret MJ-12 committee, which I write with my author Brad Steiger. Brad, as you know, has published 143 books and has 15 million copies in print, which is pretty incredible. Before I'm through, you'll know exactly what the Flying Triangle is, the one that's been sighted around the world. It's the most exotic and classified aerospace vehicle that's ever been built. It may be stealthily hovering over Phoenix, Belgium, or your city. I'll show you pictures of Air Force aircraft I've worked, declassified Air Force aircraft, and classified aircraft that's never been seen before. I'll also explain how we come upon that technology. First, I'll share some of my family background. I was born to fifth-generation French Americans, and many of my relatives for generations have been involved with the government fields of intelligence, crypto, and classified development projects. This is true as far back as Joseph Fouché and the French Revolution, where he was the prime minister under Napoleon. He was the head of the French Secret National Police Force and a direct ancestor of mine. Joseph Fouché started the first organized intelligence organization in the world. The CIA, the Russian KGB, the English MI5, the Israeli Mossad, and many other intelligence agencies have used and expanded upon his methods of intelligence gathering, networking information, and political survival. Some French historians consider him a scoundrel because he survived Napoleon and the King of France. My career background spans 30 years, and since the government isn't about to support my claims, you'll see from the positions I've held, the programs I've worked, that I was in a position to gather the information I'm presenting. My first job was as a machinist making bombs for the U.S. Air Force at R.G. Letourneau. I would be involved with the Department of Defense in one way or other for the next 25 years. After being drafted into the Vietnam conflict, I initially went through a year of intelligence, communications, and cryptological schools. During the years 1967 through 1974, I was stationed or worked at many of the Tactical Air Command, Air Training Command, Pacific Air Forces Command bases. During the Vietnam conflict, I was assigned to special projects at Kadena Air Force Base, Okinawa, Udon Air Force Base, Thailand, Ben Hoa Air Force Base, Vietnam, and spent anywhere from a day to a month at many other Southeast Asian bases. With my training and experience as intelligence equipment, special electronics, black programs, and cryptological areas, I received other government opportunities. I filled major command liaison positions, headquarters manager, DoD factory representative for TAC, SAC, ATC, and PACAF. Later in my career as a defense contractor and engineering manager, I dealt with classified black programs, developing state-of-the-art electronics, logistics, and technical data, and automatic test equipment. I was considered an Air Force expert with classified electronics countermeasures, test equipment, cryptological test equipment, and automatic test equipment. I worked with many of the leading aircraft manufacturers and Department of Defense contractors. I participated as a key member in flight operational test and evaluation, design, development, production, programs, state-of-the-art avionics, including electronics countermeasures, satellite communications, cryptological equipment, and support equipment. During my career, I was handpicked development cadre for many of the Air Force's newest fighter and bomber development programs. I was cadre for the F-111 Swing Wing bomber, the F-15 Eagle air superiority fighter, the A-10 Warthog close air support fighter. Next slide. The F-16 Falcon fighter. Next slide. And the B-1 Lancer bomber. Next slide. Other research and development programs I've worked as far back as the 70s are still classified top secret. I received over 4,000 hours of technical training from the military and the government, about which of half was classified. This is a picture of the Boeing F-22 Raptor, air dominance fighter. My involvement with black programs developing stealth aircraft is still classified. I am perhaps the only person who has actually worked at top secret Groom Lake Air Base within Area 51 of the Nellis Range and written about it and can prove it. I spent 20 years working directly for the U.S. Air Force and DoD agencies. That's a F-117 at Groom. Followed by another 8 years as a defense contractor manager. My last position for the Air Force was Strategic Air Command Liaison. As a defense contractor manager, I performed as engineering program manager and site manager for DoD contractors involved in classified development, logistics support, and electronics engineering. I am now CEO of Fouchier Media Associates, which I run with my beautiful wife, Rebecca. I'm also the inventor of NeuroSync Mime, a behavior modification software using hypnotic entrainment and subliminal messages. I wrote Alien Rapture: The Chosen in 1994 and 95 after my last trip to California, New Mexico, and Nevada. I undertook this trip to do research for Alien Rapture, which included a meeting with 5 close friends who agreed to release confidential information to me and discuss their closely guarded personal experiences. I also interviewed other contacts who had worked classified programs, such as SR-71 pilots and engineers on black programs, and others who had flown classified development aircraft to gather information on UFO sightings and contact. At this point, I was blessed with teaming up with a great man and a great writer, Brad Steiger. He's a great friend also. I had decided to get out of the defense industry as I felt the fraud, waste, and abuse was rampant both on the government and contractor sides. I wanted to work for myself as a writer and develop my own ideas and products. So far, I've been a terrible boss. I've worked myself incredibly long hours with no benefits and a meager salary. Who were the 5 friends and co-conspirators, I like to call them, and a host of others, you might ask? The first friend was Gerald, a former NSA National Security Investigator and TREAT team member. TREAT stands for Tactical Reconnaissance Engineering Assessment Team. I think some of you call them Men in Black. He worked for the Department of Energy and the National Security Agency. This was his cover, but ultimately the National Security Agency controlled all his movements and everything he did. His job required him to watch employees with top secret and Q clearances and other classified clearances at the Nevada test site the Nellis Range, Los Alamos, Sandia, and many other bases. He spent a lot of time out at Area 51 for years before I even knew what he was involved in. This is where previously the most classified aerospace testing in the world took place. You may know it as Groom Lake, Watertown, the ranch, or Dreamland. He was found dead of a heart attack a year after our last meeting. The second friend, Sal, was a person who worked directly for the National Security Agency with Electronics Intelligence, or ELINT, and became a defense contractor upon his retirement. The third friend, Doc, was an SR-71 spy plane pilot and a U.S. Air Force test pilot at Edwards Air Force Base. The fourth friend, Dale, and I were in the service together during the Vietnam conflict, and I've known him since the early 70s. His father worked for the NSA for over 25 years, and he's the one that sent me the MJ-12 documents. I'll discuss the MJ-12 documents last. The fifth friend, Bud, was a DoD contractor, electronics engineer, worked top secret development programs dealing with electronics countermeasures, radar homing and warning, ECM jammers, and infrared receivers. He retired as a program manager and later died of a brain tumor within 30 days after his symptoms appeared. I also received input from 4 other SR-71 pilots, 2 U-2 pilots, a TR-1 pilot, and about 2 dozen fighter and bomber jocks. I got the picture of the TR-3B, one person in this latter group. At the time, I had no intention of writing about programs I was involved in due to the Secrecy Act and classification documents I had signed. I had my fill of working for the government and defense contractors. However, it bothered each of us that we'd had experience with unusual phenomena, extremely advanced technology, and witnessed unidentified aerial contact that had not been previously reported. As we sat at a table in a dark corner of the Silver Dollar Saloon in Las Vegas, discussing our experiences and swapping knowledge, each of the group of 5 assured me that they trusted me enough to write about their secrets and protect them. We agreed to get together the next year with an understanding that I would contact each of them and set up the meeting. In the meantime, I wrote down all of our notes and their input and their contacts from other friends about unusual phenomena and their personal sightings. Many of the things the group revealed to me were startling, even to me, who had worked 25 years on black programs. I used the information to piece together the story now titled Alien Rapture: The Chosen. I'm going to share some of these secrets and unusual phenomena with you this afternoon. The SR-71 was designed as a spy plane for the CIA in the 60s and designated the A-12. The Mach 3 Plus aircraft first flew in 1962, taken off from Groom Lake Air Base in Area 51. Later, once the Air Force took over the operation, it was designated the SR-71 Blackbird. My friend Chuck, an SR-71 pilot, related to me an in-flight incident he had in the 1970s. He was returning from a reconnaissance flight, was at an altitude of 74,000 feet and a speed of Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. He noticed something flickering in his peripheral vision. Hovering over his left wingtip was a ball of dense plasma-like light. When he stared at it for more than a few seconds, it hurt his eyes. Chuck tried to use his UHF, VHF, and HF communications tests to no avail. There was nothing but static. Repeatedly glancing at the ball of light, he watched in amazement as it moved effortlessly about his aircraft. At one point, the light positioned itself a few feet in front of the spiked cone of the air intake inlet. The enormous amount of air rushing into the engines should have sucked in and shredded almost anything in its path, but the light orb was mysteriously unaffected. The light, he noted, acted in a curious manner, if something inanimate could act in a curious manner, or act in any manner at all. It moved from time to time to other parts of the aircraft, staying until his approach to Beale Air Force Base, California. It was inside of the air base when the plasma ball finally pulled away from the aircraft in a wide arc at ever-increasing speeds. Of course, after reading his incident report, his operations commander told him never to speak of this incident. When Chuck related the story to me, he was absolutely convinced this plasma ball was controlled by some form of intelligence. I have over 24 stories from pilots of similar incidents with UFOs and plasma balls. Have you ever heard stories about missing memory? Sal worked a program for 2 years in a top secret research facility in California. At the end of the program, he started having flu-like symptoms. And after several days of worsening symptoms, went to his company doctor. His company prescribed some medication and sent him home for 2 days. On the third day, he woke up and couldn't remember where he worked or who he worked for. He called his brother. His brother, in a panic, called up the company. The company informed him that his job had been terminated because his contract had run out. Sal was the SR-71 pilot I spoke of earlier. To this day, and I can't say to this day, I heard from Sal in 2 years, the only thing he could ever reconstruct was from his pay records, letter of offer, and his personal notes, engineering notes, to convince him he actually had worked there. The company in question was involved in developing the TR-3B gravity disruption device called the magnetic field disruptor, which is the circular accelerator part of the TR-3B, which I'll go into more detail in a minute. Any of you ever heard of the super strong foil-like material at Roswell? I'm sure most of you heard something about it. Another friend who worked for General Dynamics in Fort Worth described a program in which he worked at a plasma accelerator in the mid-60s, researching gravity warping techniques. He is a physicist by education and trade. This was his first top secret program. He described a foil-like material, much like that discovered after Roswell crash. He described the foil as 12 layers of material less than 10,000ths of an inch thick. It was as flexible as a plastic trash bag, but virtually indestructible to piercing, burning, or cutting, which you've probably all heard before. Here's what you haven't heard. In order to cut the material used for the project, the material was supercooled, a large electrical charge was applied to polarize the molecular structure, and a laser cutter was applied in order to cut this material. Large ribbons of this material were used to reinforce the accelerator, which contained the mercury-based plasma that they started researching in 1965. The plasma was cooled to superconductive temperatures, rotated at 45,000 revolutions per minute, and pressurized at 150,000 atmospheres. This would be considered state-of-the-art technology even today, some 30 years after he worked the project. 33, okay. Yeah. He related that the project achieved its objective. Instruments and test objects placed within the center of the accelerator showed a 50% loss in weight attributed to the reduction in the gravitational field. You'll hear a little bit more about this technology when I address the TR-3B and the magnetic field disruptor. From 1973 through 1976, I was home base at Edwards Air Force Base. It is near Lancaster, California, and even near the San Andreas Fault. Edwards has a long history of secret technology and experimental aircraft. It's a shame that's not clear. That's a B-2 stealth aircraft. It's a beautiful picture. The YB-49 was flown in 1948 at Edwards Air Force Base, which looks a lot like the B-2 stealth bomber. The XB-70 was first flown in 1964 and looks a lot like the new top secret SR-75 the Air Force says doesn't exist. Edwards is the home of the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School and is responsible for flight operational test and evaluation of the Air Force's newest aircraft. It hosts a number of tenant organizations, including NASA and a Jet Propulsion Laboratory facility. I worked the F-111 Swing Wing bomber. the F-15 Air Superiority Fighter, the F-16 fighter, the A-10 Close Air Support Attack Aircraft, and the B-1 stealth bomber. I was involved with these and other classified development programs when they were just a gleam in some pilot trainees' eyes. One night, a longtime friend of mine and I were standing on top of the Fairchild A-10 hangar at Edwards Air Force Base. It was 2 a.m. and a perfectly clear night with millions of stars visible to the naked eye. This was a very common night at Edwards. I noticed a group of stars we were looking at seemed to be shifting in color. And at the time, I could name quite a few constellations. I'd just taken an astrology course and I definitely knew what the Big Dipper was. I made a C in that course, I think, or B. So I pointed out to my friend that the 3 stars near the Big Dipper in triangular formation were not supposed to be there. We watched as the strobing stars shifted in color from a bright blue to a reddish yellow. After a period of about 20 minutes, we could tell that the objects weren't stars because they were getting larger. This was somewhat unnerving. It was further unnerving when the space in between the stars started blocking out the stars in the background. We decided it probably was a top secret Air Force vehicle of some type. Still, we weren't sure. At the time, I didn't believe in UFOs. And that's the honest truth. The vehicle had gone from half the size of the Big Dipper to twice its size in a half hour. It had moved from the west to the east towards Edwards Air Force Base. About that time, we could make out the silhouette or outline of the triangle. The lights, or possibly exhaust, flared brighter and vanished in an instant from the sky. This experience wasn't my first sighting, but it was one of the few where I had a witness. In the summer of 1976, I relocated to Nellis Air Force Base, north of Las Vegas. I spent 3.5 years there. I worked primarily with the F-15 electronics countermeasures and automatic test equipment. I'd heard rumors of air bases located in the desert at places called Mercury, Indian Springs, and others that didn't even have names at the time. Before the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the USSR, no one talked about their classified work experiences, nor did we repeat rumors of top secret technology or aircraft. Most of us who had top secret clearances never even told our wives what programs we were working, or where we were going. I once spent 6 months in Vietnam while my wife thought I was at a classified school in Denver, Colorado. The military, in a court of law, has actually denied the existence of classified Air Force Base inside the Nellis Range, out in the Nevada desert, within Area 51. Don't you know the plaintiffs and the lawyer were surprised to hear this? But that's another story. I was one of the few personnel at Nellis who had top secret clearance with crypto access and was certified on specific NSA cryptological equipment. I was certified on the Mode 4 IFF system for aircraft also, which uses encrypted codes. It was due to a combination of coincidence and my technical experience and my certification that I was requested to be temporarily assigned to a place which had no name. I was told by my commander to report to an office on the base. He didn't know where I was going to be working or how long I was going to be gone. And he was pretty ticked off at me because at the time we were fielding the F-15 electronics countermeasures equipment, and it was critical. And I think to this day he remembers that. I left the first Monday morning at 4:30 a.m. before sunrise. We boarded a blue Air Force bus with the windows blackened out. There were 28 other people on the bus on the first trip, including 2 security policemen with M16s and a bus driver. There was only one thing said to us for the whole trip. When we got on the bus, they told us, do not speak. And when the bus closed the doors, he repeated, do not speak unless you're spoken to. Well, if you ever had an M16 pointed in your direction, you don't talk. So it was pretty bad because the windows were, you couldn't see anything. And eventually this fine silted dust started coming in the windows and you knew you were out in the desert. In the 1950s, the government started building the super secret Groom Lake facilities for the CIA's U-2 spy plane. It's located in the north central part of the Nellis Range and designated Area 51. Construction of facilities continues even to today, except mostly at Papoose and south of there. The SR-71, the TR-1, the F-117, and then can you back up one slide? Don't you know when it was really dark, a lot of people thought that was a UFO? Okay, next slide. And the B-2, that's not a B-2, that's an SR-75. We're tested at Groom. Now the top secret SR, back up just one for a second. Now the top secret SR-75, the SR-74, now next slide, and the TR-3B are operated there. Many of these aircraft have been misidentified as UFOs. When we reached Groom, the bus had pulled into an aircraft and then shut the doors. The security policemen dispatched the regular workers to their jobs. I was escorted to the electronics building with a sergeant who had an M16. I'm going to tell you something you've never heard before, and every person that comes after me that tells you they worked at Groom, I want you to ask them about this. Because no matter how much technology you work, how many times you talk to people, you forget things. But you never forget discomfort. I was given a pair of heavy glasses to wear which can only be described as looking like welder's goggles. There is no peripheral vision. They have polarized lenses, and anything past 30 feet is blurred. It's like looking through your shower glazed glass. If an M1 tank barrel had been pointing at me at 50 feet away, I wouldn't have had a clue. That's exactly how they work. The whole time I was there, some 10 consecutive days first time, followed by numerous follow-up visits. The routine was the same. Leave Nellis Air Force Base before sunrise and return after dark. Only once did I get a glance at the whole base. They were getting ready to fly class in, and they flew me up in a helicopter, and I was supposed to wear the goggles the whole way, but I kind of peeked. I kind of shifted around, like you do one of these things. So I actually got to look at it from the air. For those stationed at Groom or commuting there daily, the flight schedules are posted for classified flights. Everyone not cleared for that particular program or flight has to be indoors, and there are no windows where you can see out on the flight line or into other hangars. You have to be off the flight line and inside 30 minutes prior to any classified flight. As you know, a couple of thousand personnel are flown into Groom and Papoose and other facilities that they've now moved further south every day from McCarran Airport and Las Vegas and Edwards Air Force Base. Many people drive in from Tonopah to live north of the range. Other people commute through Mercury and Indian Springs from Las Vegas. While at Groom, I made contacts. Later met them again at Nellis Air Force Base or around Las Vegas over time and became friends with them and stayed friends for many, many years. On my third day of the job at Groom, I had to remove a module from a multi-bay piece of satellite communications equipment used to support special mission aircraft. I noticed while inside this bay checking out the wiring, I contained a steel unit about the size of a large briefcase. I noticed it had a National Security Agency ID plate on it. The nomenclature on the nameplate was Direct Orbital Communications Link, which I thought was strange as the unit was part of a digital communications link used solely to communicate with classified Air Force vehicles. I was unaware at the time of any military orbital missions not directly related to NASA. Remember that I'm talking about the late 70s. The space shuttle didn't fly until 1981. I disconnected the unit out of curiosity and removed the rear access cover. To my amazement, there were some half dozen large-scale integrated circuit chips with over 500 pins. The inspection stamp was 1975, so you have to visualize what we have today going back to 1975 when, did we even have TRS-80s then? It was about the size of a Zippo lighter. I believe the most advanced processor speeds the NSA had at the time were equivalent to a IBM 8088 running about 4 million cycles per second. There was for any of y'all familiar with technology, this processor ran at 1 billion cycles per second, which is about 4 million being 250 times greater. Yeah, I think that's about right. I haven't figured this out. But the reason I knew it, the clock speed was 1 billion cycles per second. There was a clock synchronization jack on the back of this unit, a BNC connector, which was labeled, and I had a frequency counter, and I actually measured it. And I couldn't even working on black programs at the time, I couldn't imagine something that ran at 4 billion cycles per second when they didn't even have an Apple II Plus with 48K memory out there. And we had these clunker IBMs that were like 4 bays that only ran at 4 million cycles per second. Yet we had this one circuit card with modules on it. It's incredible if you know even the slightest bit about technology. In the Groom mess hall, I heard words like Lorentz forces, pulse detonation, cyclotron radiation, quantum flux transduction field generators, quasi-crystal energy lenses, and EPR quantum receivers. I'm not going to talk about quasi-crystals. I'll make a prediction. Quasi-crystals is the key to everything you wanted to ever know about how they got here. And that's all I'm going to say about it now. Except one of the quasi-crystals is a hydrogen crystal. I wrote down everything I saw, heard, and touched in my log every night. But as you would expect, the food was great, but it had to be. There was no cable, no alcohol, and no women. So everybody got fat. Later back at the base, my routine went the same, and I also had a part-time job at the Silver Dollar Saloon and Casino that Bill Ladd owned up until a few years ago and may still. I ran their security for him. I had this NSA friend, Gerald, that I mentioned previously, you may have forgot. He's the one that watched the people with highly classified jobs at the Nellis Range, the Nevada test site, and other areas around the Southwest. He was in a supervisor position and it was way up in the NSA. But he liked the field jobs. He didn't like staying up around Fort Meade or any of the other places those guys in three-piece suits hang out. But his primary job was watching the people at Groom and the Nevada test site, where at the time they were still doing underground atomic tests, exploding bombs. He happened to mention a vehicle that was boosted into orbit and returned to land in the Nevada desert. It was an unmanned reconnaissance vehicle that took off from a B-52 bomber and used booster rockets to place it in temporary Earth orbit, low Earth orbit, for the purpose of taking reconnaissance pictures. I really thought he was feeding me a lot of bull at the time. And he said, this vehicle is remotely piloted and communications are made via the docile system at Groom. I'm not usually too slow, but it didn't hit me until he repeated, direct orbital communications link, DOCL. Bingo, the light bulb went on. I had seen a piece of the docile equipment at Groom, the one with the large chips in it. These are old pictures of the virtual reality lab at Brooks Air Force Base, where they developed the software to fly these classified, and by the way, they call them IPVs, independently piloted vehicles, not UAVs or RPVs on the black programs. After I agreed to, has there only been one of these showed? Okay. There. After I agreed with my friends to write the story, there was a lot of discussion on who would stick their neck out. I don't know what that tells you about me. But they were, long after we were researching this book, they stayed with the defense industry, and I got out. So I was the only one directly tied to them, so it fell on my shoulders. I talked to several military judge advocate general lawyers, or JAGs. Well, I actually did. I actually made appointments with them. And I told them I'd worked many classified programs and I wanted to write a fiction story that is technology-based. I was told I couldn't name any real individuals with real clearances or covers or their working names, and I haven't. I was also told I couldn't discuss any details or technology of secret programs I had been personally assigned to, which I haven't done. Then I was told as long as I did that, I could damn well write what I wanted to, and I have. Of course, I didn't tell them I was going to write about the government conspiracy to cover up UFO contact and reverse engineering of government, reverse engineering of alien technology, or that I was interviewing SR-71, U-2, TR-1, and the SR-75 pilots that I made contacts with over the years and had flown classified aircraft. But I didn't think that was important at the time to tell them. In one way or another, Lockheed Skunk Works has always been the lead as far as advanced technology. But Los Alamos, Sandia, Lawrence Livermore also support this development. As Boeing was involved in the TR-3A Manta, which is a bat-wing-shaped stealth vehicle that originally flew out of Groom. When I was doing interviews with defense contractors and SR-71 pilots and engineers that had worked Black programs, I'd trace back the development of the magnetic field disruptor as far back as 1965 with General Dynamics Convair Division. At that time, the program had been 10 years old. They were reverse engineering technology that wasn't available at that time. The difference between normal evolution of science, where papers are written and pros and cons are debated on the theories, and then a practical experiment is developed, and once the experiment is proven, practical applications of this new technology is sought after, usually in the Department of Defense for weapons or aircraft. But in 1965, when my friend was working the magnetic field disruptor, they actually had information on what the craft would do, what it was made out of, and things like size, weight, density, but they had no papers written on it, no theories, and they were basically told, build one of these from the pieces, make it work, and explain it to us how it works. From the magnetic field disruptor, when it was tested finally in the mid-80s at Papoose, they fired up the accelerator and it didn't do anything. And later, looking at the test data, they found out that 89% of the weight and mass was reduced in proximity to the accelerator. So when you reverse engineer a UFO and it only works 89% of what they think it's going to do, then the only thing you can do is hang a triangular-shaped body with advanced multi-mode rockets, one on each corner of the triangle, and fly the accelerator, which was developed from the crash saucers, around. And you only have to propel 11% of the triangle because 89% of the mass and weight is reduced. The magnetic field disruptor, which is the core of the technology in the flying triangles, was developed from reverse engineering. There was no evolution of science that produced this technology. From the people I talked to, the technology was anywhere from 30 to 50 years ahead of anything possible to working with gravity. Even today, the papers written on controlling gravity in one aspect or another are controversial. So to have a vehicle that actually can affect gravity by warping it, this is not anti-gravity, but it essentially warps gravity around the accelerator. The technology was being worked on as far back as the mid-50s that I've been able to trace. There was and still are no papers, scientific papers, written supporting the theories that allow this technology to work. The flying triangle, the prototype, was 200 feet across. It was first flown in 1989 or 1990. The operational version of the TR-3B flying triangle is 600 feet across. The fact that it's been spotted doing 40G turns, most people say, well, the pilots couldn't take 40G turns. 40 gravitational forces is enough to crush most people. However, if you compute 89% reduction of 40 Gs, you basically have 4.1 Gs that the pilots take because the mass and weight's reduced, and also the G forces. And a person can take 4 Gs comfortably. Can travel at Mach 9 plus. I don't have the latest specifications, but the prototype flew at Mach 9 vertically or horizontally. It could obtain suborbital altitudes. It is essentially a long loiter time surveillance and reconnaissance craft. The minimum crew of the TR-3B is 4. I don't know what the maximum capacity is. The flying wings were first flown in the U.S. in 1948, and they were essentially built by Northrop. There were circular wing aircraft, or saucers, being prototyped and tested by the Nazis in World War II. Some of their science and technology and scientists were brought over to the United States. For example, AVRO or AVRO had a contract with the Department of Defense and built several prototypes of the flying saucer in Canada. They had told citizens for years that after the first AVRO car did not meet specifications, the program was canceled. Recent Freedom of Information Act releases have showed that many versions of the AVRO saucer were built and tested and flown out of Groom Lake in the 60s. The Department of Defense strives on secrecy. There's more money going into black technology than ever before. There's less world threats, so you would think that the defense budgets would be reduced, but in essence, we're spending more now on black programs than we ever have. The most fascinating top secret facility that I know of is the Defense Advanced Research Center, which is called DARC, which is based at Papoose Lake, south of Groom Lake in Area 51. It's a facility that goes 10 stories underground and has a massive amount of floor space. The hangars for the TR-3B Flying Triangle and TR-3A Flying Batwing Manta are housed and serviced because the depot is at Papoose. Essentially, the aircraft can be parked in hangars built in the sides of hills. The hangars have floors much like carrier decks to where the aircraft can be taken down many levels below to be serviced and maintained. That's where the logistics support is for these black aircraft. When I was assigned to Nellis Air Force Base in the late 70s, I worked electronic countermeasures. I was certified on certain crypto equipment. All cryptological equipment in the U.S. is controlled by the National Security Agency. Had a top secret queue and crypto access clearances. I was assigned to Groom Lake Air Base for 2 weeks temporary to repair some crypto equipment that was being maintained by a person that was permanently assigned there but had to go on emergency leave. One of the first things that I noticed that was unusual from my experiences was you have to wear these very myopic, they almost look like welder's glasses. They have thick polarized lenses. There's no peripheral vision. Anything beyond 30 feet is totally blurred. You have to wear these. Part of the briefing the security people give you is anytime you're outside a hangar, you have to wear those. If you're not permanently assigned there, you have to be escorted. And all escorts are armed escorts. So you always remember what causes you discomfort. A couple of friends of mine that flew the SR-71 and other prototype advanced vehicles at Groom all complained about having to wear the glasses. And it fascinates me that all these people that supposedly have worked at Groom Air Base have never mentioned these uncomfortable glasses you have to wear. Stealth and reconnaissance aircraft are essentially developed by the Air Force and the Navy. The reconnaissance aircraft such as the SR-71, the SR-75 that replaced it, the TR-3A Flying Batwing or Manta, the TR-3B Flying Triangle or Astra, are joint funded by the National Reconnaissance Office, the National Security Agency, the CIA, and the U.S. Air Force. The U.S. Air Force has operational control of the vehicles and the pilots. The missions are coordinated amongst the agencies that provided the black funding for these programs. They're primarily reconnaissance and intelligence-oriented aircraft. Every military agency is involved in recovering crashed aircrafts, whether it's foreign technology, such as foreign countries, or alien artifacts that are recovered. But primarily in 1947, when the Air Force was established, they became the primary operational control of all alien artifacts.
the Defense Advanced Research Center at Papoose, which is primarily manned by the Air Force and the Navy, the National Reconnaissance Office, the CIA, and the National Security Agency, controls all research, development, logistics, and control of crashed alien artifacts. Long before Santilli ever had the alien autopsy film, talks about a geo-organ, which is pictured in the alien autopsy, but nobody ever brings attention to it. From the people I've talked to on the inside, the alien autopsy was made from disinformation. It was funded by the government. It is 90% accurate. But as we all know, nobody's running across six-fingered aliens. The geo-organ, when you look at the autopsy that was showed on TV, is essentially one round, flattish organ in the center of the abdomen of the alien. If you were to design or genetically engineer a being, you probably wouldn't have a bunch of different organs that function separately on their own. You would integrate the bioorganisms into one. I talked to several judge, advocate, general lawyers, and publishing lawyers before I allowed the manuscript to be read by anybody besides Brad Steiger. Essentially, I cannot talk about any programs I work directly on, the technology, the people assigned to it, or any other information involved with those programs. However, there's nothing against the Secrets Acts or the law to talk about secondhand information you get from people that you've known 20 or 30 years that you trust with your life. The information I talk about publicly is all secondhand information from people I've known 20 or 30 years. Essentially, when you sign certain Secrets Acts, you cannot speak about it for 30 years or more. In some cases, what you sign says you can never speak about it unless you're authorized to. I believe eventually there's always a trickle-down effect from black technology to commercial technology. The problem that most people have is that we spend billions of dollars on black technology and we keep it secret until every other country in the world discovers this technology, puts it out commercially, and then we're behind, essentially putting our own commerce secondary to other countries. We have energy technology and transportation technologies that could revolutionize and make the world better as we sit here, but it's being kept secret. Eventually, the Germans, the French, the Japanese will put out technology that they learn from us, or reverse engineer, or create on their own, that we could have a lead in. Essentially, people that have worked in the military or within the Department of Defense. Most people have pensions or retirements or benefits that they wish to protect. They have families they wish to protect. A lot of people are running around saying that they work top secret programs and are talking about them in detail. I have a hard time believing that because I interviewed over 40 people that had worked within the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, had worked black development programs. I knew this personally. They would never talk to the media. They were quite nervous to even talk to me. I couldn't even use my cassette recorder to record them or take notes. They were willing to talk to me one-on-one with the promise that I would not reveal their names. But these people, some are afraid for their physical safety or their families. Others are only worried about their retirement pensions and benefits. It's different for different people. Some people that I was put in contact with trusted me, but they wouldn't talk to me at all because of what they felt was patriotism. From what I know from interviewing people and experiences that I've had, we have no functional flying saucers that meet the requirements for neither reconnaissance nor strategic missions. The problem with the flying saucers is they use a form of propulsion that we haven't perfected. When we perfected the magnetic field disruptor, which is essentially a reverse engineered UFO propulsion system, it only worked 89% as effective as it should. At 100%, it would have been able to repel gravity and you could use it as a propulsive force. But when you only have something that works 89%, that reduces mass and weight and G-forces by 89%, the only option you have to take advantage of this technology in an aerospace vehicle is to hang a triangular body on it, put 3 multi-mode engines on it, and fly this propulsion system around. I keep hearing stories of different vehicles that we use. We have something called a sun sieve that stays in orbit It services National Reconnaissance Office and National Security Agency satellites. The new satellites are built to be serviced by robotic vehicles. The Sun Civ was essentially orbited from the back of the SR-75, which replaced the SR-71. When the SR-75 gets up to 110,000 feet altitude, it launches the SCRAMP SR-74 for suborbital missions, or it can launch the Sun Civ, which stays in permanent orbit to repair these craft. And so, reportedly, both the SR-74 SCRAMP, which is manned, and the Sun Civ, which is a robotic vehicle, can attain orbit and potentially go to the moon. I hear stories about vehicles that have been going to the moon for 10 years, but I have not enough information to believe that it's actually going on. I believe that all forms of 75 swept-wing aircraft, delta-shaped aircraft, lifting bodies, and triangular-shaped vehicles belong to the U.S. government or some other earthly government. I believe that all these triangular and swept-wing configurations, the latest ones were developed from reverse engineering technology. So it would lead me to believe that all circular or tubular vehicles belong to some sentient race not from the Earth. I was told by two friends of mine that are essentially sources, as you'd call them, that the TR-3B, the operational version, which is 600 feet across, caused the Phoenix light. The effect was caused by holographic generators that I don't have a lot of details of the technology. I'm getting pieces, and essentially they use some type of beam, focusing beam, to agitate or resonate molecules of the air, such as nitrogen and oxygen. And then at that point, same point, they're using lasers to create a three-dimensional object on this agitated field. At this point, they can only generate balls of light. Usually they're orange or red, I've heard of some blue. So if you take a craft like the TR-3B that has electrochromatic coating that can change colors, reflectiveness, and radar absorptiveness, it can cloak itself, it could look like the sky. Most of the triangles are only spotted from the bottom at night, where people have taken pictures of silhouettes, because it has this ability to change its configuration, such as color, or patterns, such as a star field or a cloud field. So if the TR-3B, which I believe it was over Phoenix and generating these holographic balls of light, all you would see was the lights and not the vehicle. I believe eventually all technology comes forward, but we have two problems now. One is the government doesn't want to admit how many billions of dollars they're putting into black programs. And two, some of the technology is so extraordinary and connected back as far back as the Roswell crash and other crashes, alien vehicles that we've reverse engineered. I'm not sure if the information will be forthright unless one crashes and CNN happens to show up and film it before it's carted off. The flying bat wing configurations, or flying wings that are such as the TR-3A and the flying triangles, are essentially tactical reconnaissance vehicles. I know nothing of the weapon systems. There are other vehicles, such as the replacement for the F-111 swing-wing bomber, that have been called several different names, that are fighters and bombers that are armed with weapons. I've essentially concentrated on the technology involved with the flying triangles. More information to the government and make the government more open with talking about crashed vehicles and advanced technology. But as far as getting on somebody's list to talk about this technology or my own personal experiences, I feel like until the list is developed and people start talking without any harm coming to them, I'll sit back and wait. I believe that the Germans and the Japanese have technology that is close to what we developed in the early 1990s, and that you will see more odd-shaped vehicles flying around. I heard in 1994 that the TR-3B prototype, which is 200 feet across, was being used by the Navy, and the Navy was actually retrofitting a carrier to where this thing could land on a carrier and be taken below deck for repairs and to be out of observation from planes or people that pass by. To my knowledge, the largest vehicle flying is the 600 feet operational model of the TR-3B. However, the holographic generators on the TR-3A and the TR-3B can project images out to 2 miles. I think the goal for holographic generators is to essentially be able to project any type image they want. I believe the state of the technology is to where they can only project geometric objects. But you can only imagine what a vehicle would be like if you could project a giant monster in front of troops that was roaring, that looked lifelike, or if a godlike figure appeared on a cloud and told the enemy to surrender. There's any number of, is only limited by your imagination. I believe that the Foo Fighters were essentially some type of alien or sentient controlled objects. The holographic generators are developed through the normal progression of laser and holographic technology. Pictures of the Flying Triangle taken in 1969 in Romania, 1967 in Bulgaria. The top 2 were taken in Belgium in 1989 and 90. You can see the exhaust from the 3 multi-mode rocket engines on the top 2 pictures. These pictures have been greatly enhanced for the not very good quality.
The pictures, actual photographs, not...
Yes, actual photographs. The top picture of the Flying Triangle is the TR-3B, which has 3 multi-mode nuclear rocket engines on each corner, which you can see while it's in flight. This is a computer-enhanced composite picture generated by a computer based on all the specifications of known triangular vehicles. This is a schematic representation of the TR-3B from the top view, the bottom view, and the side view. Some people seeing the side view has described this as cigar-shaped or tubular-shaped.
Thanks for joining us again at You Think You Know channel, UFO edition. Join us for the next episode. Have a quick sneak peek into our next episode about Tic Tac UFOs. The military pilots, they've seen something. We've seen the videos, and we're going to show you more. The government has very little to say. What do you think about the Tic Tac UFO and the events that have taken place in the last few years? So join us on our next episode, or check out our other videos down below. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below. It helps us out a lot if you leave a comment and ask us lots of questions. Maybe we'll be able to get in as many as we can for the next episode. See you guys later. Bye.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean.